we go. Our opponent is ready. And for anyone tuning in, we are playing a best of 3 against Razel, the tournament winner of the other day. And our main focus is going to be Bretonnia and Beastmen. Bretonnia as our main pick, banning dwarves and coast, while using Beastmen as a counter pick wherever even remotely reasonable. So it should be fun. I want to get at least 2 games with both factions today. And getting into this game, we're aggressively progressing forwards towards our opponent. There is a Casket of Souls. Oh, actually, yeah, it's Kotep. And he's going to be putting in a lot of damage. He's already routed off one of our archers. But we do have the much more aggressive force that can take fights much more comfortably than the Tomb Kings. If we look at their army, it's just the 2 Caskets of Souls, really. And yeah, it really is just the 2 Caskets of Souls that are eating a lot of the money. So it is important that we get engaged as quickly as possible, sending in our heroes, since they are quite powerful, and using them probably just to shut down these halberds and also eventually shut down these stalkers. And of course, the Caskets. Our knights are playing very aggressively, since they our knights are playing very aggressively because they have no real fear of or our backline doesn't really need to worry too much, since we do have oh god, I can't think. I actually didn't get that much sleep today, but our backline is not worried at all because there's no cavalry, there's no mobility here for the Tomb Kings, so that affords us to play very aggressively with our cavalry. Getting in on the fight as quickly as possible is extremely important for actually shutting down artillery heavy builds like this. And there we go, we finally collapsed the right flank, and our heroes have made it through. They've done a good amount of damage to these halberds, especially with the Fey Enchantress and her Mortis Engine effect. But at this point, it is a good opportunity for us to actually hit Kotep now. He's the Lord for the Tomb Kings. He's a very high priority target. And if we can take him down, it would cause some pretty nice leadership debuffs here. Our center line does fall apart though, and our cavalry has taken a lot of damage just due to the double Caskets and the Ushopti. But despite all that, I think we're still doing pretty good. Our paladin has taken a lot of damage. Gotrek is doing quite well. I think we'll try pulling out the paladin so Gotrek can fight the Sphinx. And then let's see. Then from there we should be good. The paladin does survive. We can once again jump on top of these Caskets, shutting them down. Their DPS is very high, so unlike other artillery, it is quite important that we shut them down quickly. And the Ushopti too, so we'll split up our knights to jump on them and leave the Fey Enchantress in an infantry fight to give that Mortis Engine effect. She is surrounded by infantry too, so if this Sphinx decides to dive in on her, she will be relatively safe. And for our knights, since it's pretty dangerous in the backline right now, instead, we're going to be using them to collapse the infantry here for the Tomb Kings. The infantry is once it goes down, and we have an infantry advantage. We have the Beast Slayers, we have Battle Pilgrims, and with our relatively elite forces, should be able to do okay. Gotrek too isn't worried about being singled out. He would very happily take a fight against that Necro Sphinx. So we'll still play extremely aggressively with him, bring back some of our rallying units, and as soon as these Ushopti go away, we can once again shut down these Caskets. Our Paladin too is stopping the Ushopti from firing. And as soon as all this infantry is gone, we should be okay, but it is taking longer than I would have hoped. We've also lost a lot of our knights due to all the damage this game. And that is quite unfortunate. Their cycle charging would be very nice against all the Tomb King's halberds here. And I think that was a little bit of a misplay on my part, having lost so many of those guys. But we should still be fine. Tomb King's infantry is now almost all gone. These halberds are actually holding for an extremely long time. But I think if we bring the Fey Enchantress over there, it should help out a lot. Not to mention, Gotrek is still at extremely high HP, and he can be a win condition all on his own. Just because these Ushopti Great Bows aren't great versus foot characters. Let's see here. Yeah, Ushopti Great Bow units, they're not great versus foot characters. And the Caskets of Souls, of course, are pretty terrible versus guys like Gotrek. A wind spell does come down, and it hits a lot of our units. We do pull forwards to avoid most of the damage. It still does pretty well. Nevertheless, I think our actual composition here is still quite strong. And now that the what is it called? The Necro Sphinx is extremely low on HP, I'm feeling extremely confident here. Gotrek would likely be able to solo the rest of these Tomb Guard. And yeah, and from there it's just a bunch of targets that he'll quite easily take down. Still have to be a bit careful though. He definitely doesn't want to be taking a fight versus these Tomb Guards, so it's important that the Fey Enchantress finishes him off. And we'll be trying to really make sure that she doesn't get sniped out. If the Sphinx does dive in on her, we'll need to pull her back. And there actually aren't too many knights to protect her if that does happen, but Gotrek does manage to carry out the day. He finishes off the Sphinx, basically the biggest threat to himself. And now it's just some Ushopti and some Caskets. Although they are great versus infantry, and they'll be taking out my archers and my front line here. They stand no chance against my remaining heroes, as even the Fey Enchantress here will likely be able to take them out. And I think we have a win. So it's just finishing them off with Gotrek. Pretty nice game. I think something to work on would likely be my cavalry control. I felt like I was a little bit reckless with them. But yeah, I didn't really feel like I needed to sacrifice my cavalry to compromise the backline. My infantry was sort of doing that anyways. So a little bit more dodging and a little bit more care at the beginning of the game to dodge shots likely would have been much better there. But there we go. That is army losses for the Tomb Kings, a win for the Bretonnians, and a win for us. So nice. This matchup did used to be pretty bad for Bretonnia, I think. But after Gotrek was added, that really changed things up a good deal. You can see that even if you take a lot of very strong anti-cavalry forces, anti-infantry, now you have to worry about the single entities here. And yeah, it's a big threat that you have to deal with. As the Tomb Kings, if you do want to defeat a build like this, you mostly want to be trying to snipe out the Fey Enchantress. You can use Arc in the Black for Spirit Leeches, although she does have high magic resist. But cycle charging with the Sphinx is quite big. In this case, he used it to kill the knights, but in doing so, the Fey Enchantress actually stayed high HP the whole game. Holy. So here we are, Beastmen into Ryzel's Wood Elves. He has a very small army, and it's looking to be a pretty committed rush, but two Wild Riders. I feel like he might be coming in from behind, possibly. He also has some units of Dryads here. And I'm not sure where his army is. There we are. Looks like a lot of them are on this flank. We're going to reposition our spears, face up against them. and leave our Gore Herd to fight these Dryads. The Wild Riders do come in, we will be able to charge them, and our Skirmishers can cover our right flank pretty well. Nice, we get some good charges with our Centaurs. We can also begin Spirit Leeching the Sylvan Knights. We can also throw down a Vile Tide probably somewhere. Throw it down over here to hit up that cavalry. See, our archers can just give supporting fire, and it's very important that we continue cycle charging with our cavalry here. They, let's see here, Sylvan Knights can get a Chaos Spawn summon, and yeah, our cavalry is extremely squishy. They definitely don't want to be taking a lot of damage. So, yeah, it's super important that they're cycle charging in and out. Let's see, it looks like, oh man, we are about to take a fairly large charge here. The Sylvan Knights are going to be doing a lot of damage. These Wild Hunters of Kronos too are positioning to charge, but we see that they do pull over to the side to defend these Sylvan Knights, which gives us an opportunity to charge in onto the backs of these Dryads here, getting them to rout, and from there it's just pulling our cavalry back to safety. These Deepwood Scouts are now getting compromised too, which is quite good. And we've also picked off the Sylvan Knights with our ROR Great Weapon Centaurs, which means that they'll be taking a lot of damage. They don't really have a nice opportunity to escape either, since they are quite surrounded. And I think that is a quite large pick. And if we can actually finish catching them out here, it should secure us a very nice lead. Orion is chasing down our casters, though. And I don't know how well we can save them, but one of them does come back, which means that Vile Tides are back on the table. Sadly, out of range, too far to cast it onto the cavalry. So instead, we'll just have to rely on our infantry carrying it out here. These Wild Hunters of Kronos, too, are doing extremely well in the fight. We will be able to surround them, though, or at the very least, kite them with our Skirmishers. So that's going to be the plan. The Sylvan Knights have taken a ton of damage now and are as good as dead. And if we can take out the Wild Hunters of Kronos, too, means that the cavalry forces for the Wood Elves will basically be gone. Deepwood Scouts are pretty low too. And once we have the cavalry advantage, it's just going to be clearing out the rest of the infantry. And then sniping out good old Orion with Mogre, really. Aside from Mogre, there's honestly not a whole lot else to kill Orion. And, oh, what's this? The Sylvan Knights actually do manage to escape. And that is not the best situation. They're actually moving in, looking to terror out some Gore Herd. And man, that is not optimal at all. But as long as we don't take too many losses here, I'm still feeling quite comfortable. And also an important fact is that we still have all three of our axe-throwing Centaurs. They are good specifically because they are ranged units. And with their ranged, they'll be able to finish off Orion fairly well. These Wild Riders do charge into my infantry, though infantry is a lot less important in this situation. And we'll happily tank the charge with them and chase off these Wild Riders off the map. The Wild Hunters of the Lost Sylvan Knights, too, are on their way out. And as soon as these Deepwood Scouts are gone, then we'll be good to go. Orion will be getting bogged down by a unit of spears. And let's see here. We really want to finish off these Wild Riders. So, our cleanup phase for the Wood Elves is done now. We've taken out all of their multi-model troops. And we sort of unintentionally managed to keep a lot of our ranged troops alive. We still have a full ammunition unit of Ungor Raiders. And of course, like I said earlier, our 3 cavalry units. Now the Ungor Raiders have a lot of ammunition, and they can mostly just fire at will here. But our cavalry has a lot less ammunition, so we'll take off fire at will just for the late game when we need to burst down Orion. As for infantry, we'll be only leaving a few engaged at any point in time. And we do that because we do that because AoE like this can go down. And also, while they sit back, they'll be recovering their stamina. Mogr will be trying to participate in the fight too. He does not want to stay in a long fight against Orion, but he is tanky enough and does enough burst damage where he's not bad against Orion, especially after he's taken a lot of damage. So that's going to be the plan. We have just about everything set up, and from here, it's just trying to get as many missiles onto him as possible. So we'll also be pulling away our troops now, just so that line of sight can be given to our troops. We'll target Orion and see if we can take him out. We're okay using our Centaur ammunition here, since they are relatively high on ammo still. And just getting in the burst should be good, but it looks like line of sight is still having a pretty hard time here. Not sure exactly what's happening. But in just a second, we should be able to start firing in on him. Let's see, our archers should be able to get a volley. No, they do not, and they actually get engaged on. So instead, we'll cycle charge Orion once again. He'll take a lot of damage just from normal cycle charging. And it will also buy time for our archers to once again get in position. So now that they are in position, we'll once again pull away our troops and hopefully get a volley off. We position them very close too, just so that they can guarantee hits essentially. And nice, that works out pretty well. Orion does get a charge on my Centaurs. But once again, just a big charge in on Orion should work well. Ooh, a big hound cast though, hurts a lot. But he's extremely beat up now. And at this point, he's regenerating. So to finish him off as quickly as possible, we'll be sending in Mogr. We'll be firing in all of our archer ammunition. And then that should be able to take him out. On the charge, we have a lot of burst damage, and he's already down to 4,000 HP. Mogr is still quite healthy, and a few more hits will be able to take out Orion. Not to mention, our missiles are guaranteed damage too. And he should be going down in just a second. Another volley of archer fire goes in. He's at 100 health, and Mogr will be able to take him out. We did lose a lot of our cavalry due to the hound cast. And that was a little bit reckless of me. Had I been more behind, that would have cost me the game. But in this case, we managed to pull out a win. So, yeah, there we go. There we go. A nice win. I think we did manage to do quite well against all of the cavalry there. If you look at our Centaurs, they about paid for themselves, the ROR ones especially, thanks to their magic damage. And the axe throwers too also did quite well. So comparatively, I think our cavalry did good. And also the fact that we were able to shut down the dryads so fast gave us the space to do so. But we'll have to see. And yeah, here we go. Here's the first game against J Phoenix. Beastmen against Empire. And we've taken a decently strong heavy infantry force with a good amount of cavalry too. Focusing, well, we really just have a mix of everything here. Immediately, looks like some Outrider grenade launchers are going to punish me for not paying attention to the unit types here. Dealing about 150 gold in damage. Extremely unfortunate. And it looks like we're going to be getting skirmished pretty hard. Not great. We do return fire with our archers, but they don't do amazing. And let's see here. I guess we just push forwards and try to catch this cavalry. That seems to be what we're going to want to do. We do have the mobility to catch up to them, I think. So let's see how well that goes. Oh, geez. Oh, man, that's a lot of cavalry. We do just barely manage to pull back in time. It's great. Starting to catch some Empire Knights. And that's going to be the name of the game here. We do let our cavalry get caught, though. We do have a Vile Tide, though. But that's not exactly AP. And, oh, man, a Soulfire coming down to that Warrior Priest. Not great. And all of a sudden, I feel like I'm misplaying this greatly. Our casters, too, are a little bit out of position. Our formation, not doing great, but we have caught some cavalry. And if we can catch out this Warrior Priest, that should go out pretty well, too. I forgot to account for the fact that Empire can go for a kite build against Beastmen. But the more catches we can make here, the better. Especially on this cavalry. Warrior Priest, taking him out will be great. And of course we have the dreaded Manticore summons if need be. Let's see how well this spell does against the cavalry. Amazing, since it is AP. The skirmishers are still doing a lot of damage. On the plus side, we have given sort of an awkward angle for all the skirmishers to fight in. Of course, we've still caught these guys, and there's no spells to really punish us surrounding the caster here. We also have spears at the ready and braced. It looks like Franz is coming in too. Now, this can be a little bit of a risky situation, especially if we can get a surround on him. It looks like we may very well. We've caught him in cavalry. And now we can pull our trump card, that being the Manticore summon. Franz is trying to pull through though. His Empire Knights are coming in to support. But we still have a surround, and of course, if we're up against a kite style of gameplay, having the cavalry forced to engage in melee is a great situation for us. But we have taken a lot of damage so far. Let's see here. We still have our two big monstrous units though, which is great. And the Manticore has engaged on Franz. But I'm still not especially confident here. Not until we have a huge mobility advantage, and the fact that we've been trading a lot of this cavalry is definitely not helpful. Another big Soulfire does come down. Gets in some pretty good damage. But we've cleared off some infantry. Let's see, there's still some knights too, though. And we're just trying to get some good charges. I think our main focus is going to be on the Minotaurs and Chaos Spawn. And another catch on Franz looks to be coming up. We're going to pull our cavalry forwards to make sure that we secure that surround. But man, he gets a very nice attack animation. Does manage to pull through. But perhaps this unit of Minotaurs will be able to pin him down. Meanwhile, Mogre will be engaged on this front. And it looks like we might even be able to catch out this Jade Wizard. And if we can catch a Jade Wizard, that would be amazing. Our casters too are still doing okay, and the catches on Franz here may very well be our victory condition. Mogre, meanwhile, he is having a very rough time, just getting constantly stuck in the back. But we're not worried about him getting picked off, just since he does have his regeneration. There's also a nice pick on this unit of Empire Knights here. And we're also on the verge of routing off Franz, which is quite good. A huge fight in the center here means that we don't really have a chance to cycle charge. But I think our forces are superior when it comes to the straight up fight. Because once again, it's all the skirmishers. Franz also getting routed is great. And I think now's the time for a Chaos Spawn summon. These Spearmen are shutting down our archers, which we definitely don't want. And this Chaos Spawn will be able to push them off. They'll buy us more time to fight the cavalry. And let's see, we have Chaos Spawn in here too. And they should be able to do well. Pistoliers are running out of ammunition too. And we've also killed Franz. Which is definitely the swing that we needed to get a win here. Our casters are still alive too, which means that we have a mobility advantage. And it's going to be a mass rout from the Empire. Fire Knights suffering army losses, and it's going to be a GG. So a little bit surprising there. I did not expect to win it. To be honest, I thought that game was super over. I had no control at the beginning. And it shows why Beastmen is a hard faction to play. However, versus the build, I think we did decently. The main thing that we wanted to do here was to take a fight. If you look at the armies, his infantry was weaker than mine. And his Empire Knights were severely weaker than our Minotaurs and the Chaos Spawn, which did amazing, by the way. Oh wow, and our Razorgores too. So with those advantages, we just really wanted to take a fight at all costs. Because the Pistoliers do very low damage over time. They don't have a huge impact. And the faster we can get fighting, the less value these guys will make. The Outrider grenade launchers, though, were uncatchable thanks to our build just not being ready for them. And they did a lot of damage. This is the reason why I thought we were going to lose. But then, of course, the Franz kill pulled us through. Now, this next game against J Phoenix going to be Bretonnia. First is Skaven. Have some field trebuchets. They'll be firing in onto the Council Guard, getting in some pretty good value. By the end of the game, I expect them to pay for themselves. And as for his army, it's looking like a lot of artillery. So what we're going to do here is we're going to be playing as aggressively as we can, marching in with our cavalry. At about the same time our infantry slams into the Skaven forces. Don't want to be taking Warp Lightning Cannon hits though, our cavalry. So a little bit of positioning will go a far way. We'll also be dodging with our troops, and it looks like the Warp Lightning Cannons are actually focusing my field trebuchet. So it's actually a really good situation for us. It looks like it is a Snicketch and an Assassin, so we don't want to dive in there yet. Oh wow, and we got the Poison Wind Mortars to hit his own troops, thanks to a little bit of a misfire. So, already a pretty decent start. Our field trebuchets are gone, but this is a very defensive build from Skaven. I don't think it was especially important. Our archers are now going to fire in, and they're going to be focusing on these Council Guard, I guess. No particular reason, but the Council Guard are, yeah, they are the biggest threat to our knights here, so I reckon that'll do good. The Fey Enchantress, though, is getting absolutely murdered. He is getting routed off. Thankfully, another hit doesn't come in. And that was a pretty big misplay on my part. She will manage to survive, though, and we do have our knights in the back line now. Many of our archers are gone, but they're not especially important versus the forces of the Skaven here. Our paladins, too, will be able to chase off the heroes for Skaven here, and our knights will be able to pin down Deathmaster Snicketch. The Enchantress will be able to be quite healthy, and as long as our cavalry can deal with the front lines here, I think we'll be fine. Wolf Rats look to be having a bit of a hard time, and I think our double paladin now can engage in on Snicketch. There's a lot of cavalry support, and I think that might be what we need here. Get a win. Losing all of our archers does really suck, and all of our knights are getting hit by the Poison Wind Mortars too. The front lines of the Skaven are still holding quite well. A lot of Clan Rat spears. So we'll have to see how this goes. Double Paladin is alive though. We'll throw down a big old heal too. And we have routed off Snicketch. Our knights are collapsing in on the back line, and our battle pilgrims are quite healthy too. So all in all, I think we might expect a large swing into our favor, but we can't let up. So we'll really have to make sure we chase off Snickage with our paladin. We have shut down the artillery pieces now, and I think we have enough of an infantry advantage where we don't have to worry. A summon has calmed down though. Looks to be wanting to shut down my cavalry. But we've taken out the heroes for Skaven. And once the heroes are gone, our single entities might be able to win the day for us. We'll have to see. One big problem though is that we have lost a lot of our cavalry once again. Big misplay on my part. I think throwing them into the artillery here was probably a bad idea. Since having cavalry in the late game to cycle charge is so important. But chasing off the wolf rats seems to have helped us out. Many of our troops have managed to rally, and we're heading into a late game situation. Now, Snickage is getting run off the battlefield. All of these low leadership troops will likely break after he leaves, so we don't really have to chase him off, and instead, we're going to be focusing on taking out all of these artillery pieces. Be using the Fey Enchantress too. And our recovering cavalry will be able to deal with the poison wind mortars, likely without too many problems here. The summons will slowly degrade, and the mortis engine effect from the Fey Enchantress will likely play a big part. Now we do want to have our paladins nearby to support the Fey Enchantress. This is because the rat ogres pose a decent threat to her, and her mortis engine effect is extremely important for us to pull out a win here. It looks like it's already doing some pretty good damage. Our paladin is now shutting down the rat ogres. The next goal is taking out this plague priest. There's a good chance that he has a good amount of summons left. And just to make sure that no summons come in during the late game, just finishing him off is going to be really important. Paladin will be dealing with all the rat ogres, and as soon as this warp grinder effect goes away, we'll be able to charge in with our knights, and that should get the rat ogres routed. And there we go. Looks like my timing spot on thanks to my extensive practice in Skaven campaigns. My timing for warp grinders is actually, I guess, a little bit more ingrained than I would have thought. And that charge does rout off the rat ogres. We've now shut down the artillery. And it's really just this plague priest that is the last major threat for the Skaven. It's a huge rout. And, yeah, it looks like very near army losses. I think we may have actually pulled it out thanks to our pick on Snickage, actually assassinating the assassin with our paladins and our knights. Making a big play, which paid off. I think otherwise, if Snickage had been a little bit more safe, then we likely would have lost that game, especially having almost thrown away the Fey Enchantress. But as soon as he went down, we could really feel the shift of the battle. Now, had he lived, we still had our battle pilgrims. You can see they were still at decent health, and they were fighting clan rats most of the time. So I think eventually they would have ground that down, and using that infantry advantage, we might have won. The main problem, though, is that our cavalry really sacrificed them too early, and they wouldn't be able to help rout off the front line. So I think misplays on both parts, for both sides, but a little bit too much from this Skaven, and we managed to pull off the win.